Okay. So that being said, what is integration? Integration is the major word in what we are looking at in project integration management. And by English definition, integration simply means bringing together or combining or pulling together or unifying resources together or unifying things together, whether resources or not, right? So integration means combining together. So it can therefore be said that project integration management is the unification of other processes in the project management environment, or the unification of other project management group knowledge areas with their process groups. All right, and it's important to note that the project integration management is the major role. The project integration management is the major role of the project manager. All right, it's the major role of the project manager. Every other activity can be sourced out to other specialists, but project integration management is primarily the role of the project manager, be it in the 5th edition or in the 6th edition. That remains his role, right? Okay, so integration management is essentially processes or integration management processes, the activities to identify, define, combine, and coordinate project management activities. It is the unification, consolidation, articulation, and integrative actions for completing the project, managing stakeholders' requirements, then making choices about resource allocation, making trade-offs among competing objectives and alternatives, and managing interdependencies among the project management knowledge areas. Then we have the, okay, someone saying that my screen is static. Please, I want to be sure that you can see my screen and is moving from your end. If you can see the screen moving now, please let me know. If the screen is moving from your end, please let me know. If it's moving, let me know. Okay. Is it moving? Okay, so I can see it's moving. All right. So we have 7 process groups or 7 management processes in the project integration management. And the first one is developing the project charter. The development of the project charter is a one-off event or one-off process in the project integration process and the entire project lifecycle. So it's not something you repeat all the time. Developing the project charter is a one-off event. And in the project charter, it involves documenting the initial requirements of the project and then the final expectations of the project. And it also authorizes a project phase, or it authorizes a project or a phase, then establishing partnership between the customer and the contractor, then assigning a project manager to the project. All right. Then what are the inputs, tools, and techniques and the outputs that we expect in project integration management? In the inputs, we have the business document, which will involve the business case, the benefits management plan, the agreement, the enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. Now, I want to say something here. These particular tools and techniques you're seeing now, they are from the 6th edition. Now, if it were to be in the 5th edition, what we'll be seeing would have been the business case, and then we don't have benefits management, we don't have agreements, rather we have contracts in 5th edition. So we have business case, we have contracts, but in the 6th edition, we have business document, which now involves the business case, the benefits management plan, and then you have agreements instead of contracts. Then you have the enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. Please, before I continue, I would like to be sure that we still remember what EFs and OPAs are. So please, if there is someone in this class who can still remember what EF and OPA is, please, can you just raise your hand and tell us in a moment what is EF and what is OPA? Because I informed us when we were dealing with that in the introductory class that as we get to the management processes, we'll be talking about EF, OPA as the major inputs that we'll see in the project management processes. So please, okay, so I have Ahmed Teniola. Please, Mr. Abraham, can you please unmute him and let's hear from him. Ahmed Teniola, please, can you unmute and go ahead?
Ahmed, please go ahead. You are unmuted. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, EFs are the environmental factors, both internal and external, while OPAs are the organization process assets.
Okay, so what does OPA comprise of? At least you were able to tell us that EF is internal and external environment. So what does OPA comprise of?
The procedures,
Okay.
the processes, the knowledge base,
all right. Thank you so much. So EF contains the enterprise factors and environmental factors. That's both the internal and external factors to the organization carrying out the project. Then we'll have the OPA that has to do with the organizational process assets comprising of policies, procedures, methodologies, systems, knowledge, competency, skills available to the organization performing the project. So I would like us to have this at the back of our mind so that whenever we mention EF, OPA, we don't keep repeating them over and over again. All right. All right. Thank you so much. On the tools and technique, we have expert judgment, then we have data gathering, where we now focus on brainstorming, focus groups, and interviews as ways of gathering data. All right. Then we have interpersonal and team skills, of which we have conflict management, facilitation, meeting management as part of the tools and techniques we need under interpersonal and team skills. And then we have meetings also as part of the tools and techniques we need for developing the project charter. Now, irrespective of how small or big a project is, it has to pass through these tools and techniques. There must be expert judgment to your project. The expert judgment could be an industry expert, it could be a consultant, it could be a focus group expert, and any of them. And that will give your project a more quality differentiation than when it did not go through an expert review. All right. Then on the data gathering, brainstorming could help in gathering of data. And in brainstorming, we could form smaller groups to brainstorm on how the project could get better and how we could develop a better charter for the project. Remember, the definition of the project as to what happens in the initiation phase is key to driving the project. Did you get what I just said now? What happens in the initiation stage is key to determining how the project will be driven. So it's important we use the right tools and exploit all the tools available to us to ensure that we have the right project charter while defining the project. All right. So we can also use focus groups. We can also use interviews. All right. Okay. Then on the output, we are going to have the project charter, which has gone through the rigorous process of expert judgment, has passed through data gathering, has passed through meetings, reviews, and all of that. Okay. Now, I want us to go back to what we did in initiation. One of the steps in initiation is establishing, or first of all, doing getting to identify the problem, then identifying the business case or developing a business case. Then from the business case, we'll now undergo a feasibility study. From feasibility study, we'll have to establish terms of reference. And that terms of reference is what we call a charter. So the question now is, how do we move from how do we get to ensure that the opportunity that we've seen, the business case that we've raised, the feasibility study that we have, they are all good enough to give us the terms of reference that we call charter. That is where that data gathering becomes very, very important. So part of the ways of conducting feasibility could be through focus groups in the environment, or through interviews, like some of us do. Most of the feasibility studies are done through interviews or questionnaires. Okay, so that's very, very important. So in that case, the charter we are having is one that has actually gone through the whole process or through these whole tools and techniques to get a good charter. Remember, you must always pay attention to ensuring that your work comes out with quality at all times. That your work comes out with quality at all times. Okay, your work comes out with quality at all times. The quality of your charter will determine the quality of your planning. The quality of your planning will determine the quality of the execution phase. The quality of the execution phase will determine the quality of the monitoring and control that will be done. And that also will determine the quality of the final outcome of the product that we have, which will determine whether the project deliverable will be accepted by the stakeholder or not. Now, also it's important to note, though we have our project charter developed, but remember, we had to go through all of the tools and techniques listed here. So there are some assumptions that will come up at the end of the day. Okay, assumptions that has to do with economic changes, technological changes. Okay, let's use the PES 2 analysis as a case. So we could have assumptions that could result from PES 2 analysis. That's political assumptions, environmental assumptions, or economic assumptions. Then we have the socio-cultural and socio-economic assumptions. You have the technological assumptions, the legal assumptions, and the assumptions from the environment, right? So all of these assumptions are going to be taken care of, all right? All of these assumptions are going to be taken care of, all right? So those assumptions also form a major part of the charter. They form support document. So if you're going for bidding, you submit your charter, but the assumptions log help you in your bid. Your assumptions log is a proof that you actually did a good survey, or you did a good research over the project. All right. You in your project charter, you don't really write everything that you got in your market or feasibility study, or got in your feasibility study. Most of them will be documented in your assumptions log, and that assumptions log will become very instrumental in the bidding process, and will become very instrumental also in the planning process, which will become automatically instrumental in the execution phase, and then in the monitoring and controlling phase, and then in the closure phase. So assumptions log is very, very important while defining or developing a project charter. All right. The second thing I would like us to look at, or the second management process under the project integration management, is the development of the project management plan. So the charter is like a proposal. The charter is like a proposal. And that proposal does not contain the strategies, the activities that need to be done to ensure that the project deliverable that the charter proposes is being delivered. So the charter becomes an input. In fact, the charter and the product that comes alongside with the development of the charter both become an input, or become inputs to the development of the project plan. Okay, both become inputs to the development of the project management plan. So the project management plan will contain the details of activities, details of procedures, details of systems, details of the entire project scope, details of the human resources, communication plan, quality plan, and all of those other plans being integrated in one piece. All right. So all of those other sub-plans that we are going to integrate together to form the project management plan, each of them will be targeted towards achieving what was stated in the charter. So that's where the charter becomes the blueprint for project planning. Okay, project management planning. All right. So what does develop project management plan entails? It entails documenting the actions necessary to define, prepare, integrate, and coordinate all subsidiary plans. Now, what we are regarding here as the subsidiary plans are the plans that are contained in the other 9 knowledge areas. So from scope management plan to, or from scope plan to stakeholder management plan, all of them have to be integrated together to be able to give us a concrete and well-detailed project management plan. So those other plans that make up the project management plan are what we call the subsidiary plans. Okay. So it also involves how to execute. That's develop project management plan involves how to execute, monitor, control, and close the project. So if you look at this very well, you find out that the project charter focuses more on the initiation, but the project planning now focuses on initiation and then gives us the go ahead to go to planning. But the planning gives us the go ahead to execute, to monitor, to control, and to close out the project. Okay, so the project management plan is progressively elaborated by updates and control and approve through integrated change control process. Project management plan is not rigid. Project management plan is flexible. Now, if you go back to those assumptions log, there are some of the things that we are stated in the assumptions log that as the project continues to go on, they might move from assumptions to realities. Okay, like things like inflections, things like technology innovations, things like political issues, environmental issues. They can move from assumptions to becoming realities. Okay, they can move from assumptions to becoming realities. I am sure anywhere across the globe, any project that will be handled with some assumptions towards pandemic. Okay, if it happens, then we should have a way to manage it. If it doesn't happen, then we can go ahead with the project. Now, the pandemic has provided another assumption. Does it mean that for every project charter will now provide assumption, provide pandemic as part of the things to provide basis for decision on the charter? No, but you can provide that as under assumptions log. Let's take, for instance, in my country, where I'm talking from precisely right now, let's take, for instance, economic fluctuations, inflections, and the likes. So the price, let's assume you're doing a project that could involve the use of oil and gas products. So in April, in May, the product was at 123, 121, 123 naira per liter of fuel. That's PMS, 123 per liter. Now, by June, July, it went to 145 naira per liter. Then by August, it went to about 150 naira per liter. Then it went to 160 naira per liter. Okay, so those things now form trends of assumptions. In your project charter, you could say, okay, this is what this project could cost at the prevailing economic conditions. But there should be room for assumptions where cases like inflation, cases like economic price adjustment become necessary to the project. And that's why we will also pay very much attention when we go to dealing with procurement, project procurement management, and all of that, because these things I'm talking about now, assumptions log become very inevitable in procurement. Okay, it becomes inevitable in procurement. All right. Okay, so all of those changes that will be coming will be updated in the project management plan through the integrated change control process, and then used to monitor, control, and then get the project work done. All right. Now on the inputs, we have project charter, we have output from other processes. Now these other processes, like I said, the other 9 knowledge areas have their own processes. So you have communication processes. We will still integrate them to the project plan. We have risk management processes. We have quality management processes, human resource management processes, schedule management processes. We are all going to integrate all of those things into the project management plan, as to have a well-detailed document that will guide us in implementing and executing the project. Then we'll have EF again and OPA as part of the things that will help in deciding how the project management will be, or how project management plan will be designed. Okay. Then on the tools and techniques, we have expert judgment. Then we have data gathering. Then we have under data gathering, we have brainstorming, checklists, focus groups, interviews. We have interpersonal and team skills again, where we have conflict management, facilitation skills, and meeting management skills also. Then we have meetings. All of these are considered very great tools in developing a project management plan. Now, it's important for us to know that planning is actually a phase that goes all through the project. So it's not like a project, development of a project charter that is one-off. Planning is iterative. Planning is iterative. Remember, we talked about just in the last sentence we have here that they are progressively elaborated by updates and controlled and approved through integrated change control. So that's to show that planning is iterative. So it keeps bringing updates as the project continues. And one of the major sources of those updates are those assumptions we made, those uncertainties that we foresaw, that we have documented, and then as the project continues, they can come up as changes. So we need to have a change request form and a change log, where we can categorically say that this is what changed in this project, and this is how it was integrated back to the project plan, for easy documentation and for easy review purposes. Makes review and evaluation easy. All right. Then at the end of the day, we'll have the project management plan as the output of the developed project charter. All right. So that's very, very important. Then the next thing we'll talk about here is directing and managing the project execution. Directing and managing the project execution. Directing and managing the project execution. Okay, I'm seeing a question from Adetunji Fasoranti. I'm going to answer this question because it's just where I am still at. He said, is there any difference between monitoring and evaluation plan and project management plan? Yes, there is a difference, a slight difference in the two. All right. The only difference between the two is that your project management plan is the first thing that is formed. And in the project management plan, monitoring and control plan is inside the project management plan. So the project management plan, or monitoring and evaluation plan rather, is contained in the project management plan. I'll repeat that again. The monitoring and evaluation plan is a subset of the project management plan. Okay, so if there is any difference between the two, the difference is that M&E plan is inside the PM plan. Okay, does that make sense to you, Adetunji Fasoranti? Okay, for questions that may require drawing extrapolations from other sites, I may not answer them now because your question on risk assessment and project checklist and assumptions log, risk assessment is not part of the tools and techniques. So I will answer this question by the end of this class. All right, Mr. Victor or Chiebu, I will answer your question, making the correlation of a risk assessment, project checklist, and assumptions log. Okay. So just ask me that question by the end of this class. We will answer them. All right. So the third process there is the direct and manage project execution. Please just give me a second. Sorry for that break. I needed to fix something. All right, 4.3, direct and manage project execution. So if you check what has been happening now, we've been able to initiate the project through a charter, and we've been able to plan the project. So we now have a project management plan. So the next thing for us to do is to direct and manage the project. So going back to the question that Fasoranti asked, as could there be a difference between M&E plan and project management plan? So you need project management plan to direct and manage the project execution. At the same time, you need the M&E, that is a subset of the project management plan, to make sure that the plan goes as the project activities go as planned in the project management plan. So we also need the M&E in this particular category now of directing and managing the project execution. Okay, so we need to be sure that deviations are eliminated, variations are very minimal, and the project is on track. All right. So the direct and managed project execution involve the process of performing the work defined in the PM plan, and all of what it will entail will be performing activities, creating deliverables, staffing, training and managing the team members, obtaining, managing and using resources, implementing methods and standards, then establishing and managing communication channels. It will also involve generating data to facilitate forecasting, and the forecasting could be for costing, for scheduling, or for progress report. It is also good for issue change requests and also to adapt approved changes. So why we execute now, this is where the M&E comes to play. The M&E is the primary function that helps us know whether there is changes, whether there are changes rather, or whether there are deviations, there are variations. Those deviations, those variations we are seeing, they are identified through the M&E process, which comes to us as changes to the project plan. So everything still goes back to integrating or updating the project plan to remain on track of the project. Okay. Remember, I said this issue, these changes could be coming from the assumptions we saw from the feasibility study we carried out before we established the charter. Okay. All right. So then the next one there is to manage risks and apply risk response activities. So the M&E will also help us in identifying possible risks. It will help us also in monitoring and evaluating the risk management plan to ensure that the risk management plan is on track with the project as defined in the project plan or as updated in the project plan. All right. Please, if you can see my screen, please, can you help me type 1-1 in the chat room? You see execution and with other things, please, can you help me type 1-1? Someone is saying he can't see the screen. All right, please, if you can't see the screen, kindly check your network and be sure that you are on track. All right. So another thing execution will help us do also is to collect and document lessons learned. Then implementing approved changes. The changes could be towards corrective actions, towards preventive actions, or towards defect repairs. There could be corrective actions, there could be preventive actions, and there could be defect repairs. All right, very, very important. Now, what are the input tools and techniques and outputs that we have to use in directing and managing project work? Okay, what are the tools and techniques that we have to use? Okay, all right. I observed that the tools and techniques are actually updated. The tools and techniques are of 6th edition, but more of the explanations before the tools and techniques are from the combination of both 5th and 6th edition. All right. So when we get to the other side, you will find more. So what are the inputs? The inputs here will involve project management plan. And the project management plan could be in the project management plan, the tools could be any component in the project management plan. Now, any component here could be the component of communication plan in the project management plan. It could be the component of M&E in the project management plan. It could be the component of Q&A, quality assurance, QAQC rather, in the project management plan. It could be the component of human resource planning or other resources planning. It could be the procurement plan and all of that. So any component of the project management plan can serve at a point for directing and managing the project execution. Then another input we'll have there is the project documents. And under the project documents, we'll have the documents as change log. The change log will help us keep a track of all the possible changes that we are experiencing and then updating on the project plan. And we'll also update their impacts to the project. Why were they updated? We'll also need to know all of that in the change log. Then we'll have lessons learned register. All of the lessons that will be learned. Lessons will be learned to improve the competencies, to improve the knowledge of the team that is performing the project. The lessons could be learned based on enterprise environmental factors. It could be learned based on organizational process assets. So there could be lessons learned, and those also need to be well documented. Then we'll have the milestone list that shows us the major deliverables that need to be achieved in each of the phases of the project. Then we'll have the project communications also as part of the project document. So the project communication will involve things like who the stakeholder is, how the stakeholder will be communicated, what kind of information will be communicated, the tools to be used, the channels to be used in communicating to stakeholders, what frequency should stakeholders be communicated, and all of that. That will be contained in the project communications document. Then we'll also have the project schedule. The project schedule will contain the activities, the sequenced activities of the sequenced project activities. Then it will also contain the duration of those activities that will be sequenced. It will also contain the activity attributes and then contain the activity resources, estimated activity resources for those particular activities that are sequenced in the project schedule. So the project schedule, a typical example of a project schedule in a simple form could be the one we have as duty roster in a school. The duty roster we have in a school. So you see that the duty roster has a time allocated for a particular class, and there is going to be a particular teacher for that. So there is activities to be done. There is estimated duration for the activity, and there is a resource allocated to the activity. The resource, being the human resource, will coordinate the other resources needed for the effective delivery of his or her class. So the project schedule is very key, is a very key document in directing and managing project activities. Of course, we have used project schedule to go through this class today. So we know when to come back, when to go, and all of that. Then we'll also have the requirements traceability matrix. The requirements traceability matrix.
Dr. Benito, your mic is muted, please. Dr. Benito, your mic is muted.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so I was talking about the requirements traceability matrix. Was it where I was lost? I think requirements traceability matrix. Okay, so requirement traceability matrix tries to tell the correlation between the project objectives and the business needs of the organization conducting the project. So for each project task, there should be a benefit towards the business dimension. For each objective of the project, there should be a benefit towards the business dimension. So the project traceability matrix try to make a correlation between the project objectives and the business needs. All right. Then we'll also have the risk register that gives us a full detail. Please note, for those of us doing HSC, I think you will understand more of what we are saying here right now. Okay, so the risk register, let's assume you're using job hazard analysis to conduct your risk assessment for a particular project. Let's assume you're using job hazard analysis. Now, that job hazard analysis will contain the breakdown of all the tasks in the project. Then it will contain also the possible hazards for each of those tasks under the project. Then it will now tell us the control that will be required. And if there are recommendations, there will be recommendations made. Now, it's important for us to know that risk management can be either qualitative or quantitative. I'm going to pause there because we still have to talk about it in project risk management. But the risk register is a very critical tool here in managing and directing project work, right? Then we'll also have the risk report. The risk report. So the risk report is going to give us a breakdown of the characteristics of risks that were first identified. Did they come out? Did they not come out? How were they managed? What were the impact of those risks? We have a detailed report of all of those risks as to their implication on practice or implication on execution. That's implication on directing and managing the project. We have the implication detailed as report, and then that will also improve our lessons learned. All of the things I'm saying here will improve the lessons learned from the team perspective. All right, so the team will get to improve their knowledge via risk management, via schedule management, via communications management, milestone management, and all of that. All right. Then you have another input called the approved change request. You remember that your assumptions log, that you assume that this can happen, this can happen, this can happen. Now, when those things begin to happen, you need to have a change request form for the updating or translation of those changes to become updated in the project management plan. And please, it's important to note, not all changes will be approved. Some changes will be approved, some changes will not be approved. It is a function of what the project stakeholder or project owner wants. All right. They will have the enterprise environmental factors also. They will have the organizational process assets as part of the input for directing and managing project work. Then on the tools and techniques, we have expert judgment, we have project management information system, then we have the meetings. Now, the project management information system will help us in coordinating and reporting the project, making effective project reports. So if you take a good example of a Microsoft Project Professional, or you have the Primera Oracle DB project software, if you look at those things very well, you find that the project management, according to those softwares in practice, you have different databases. So for communication management, you have a database for it. For schedule management, you have a database for it. for resource management, have a database for it. So at the end of the day, that project management information system or that tool as part of project management information system helps you to coordinate those databases for project effectiveness and efficiency. So the PMIS is very, very important in managing. Is very important. Is a very important tool in directing and managing project work. Then you also have meetings. We need meetings to agree on the changes that need to be done. We need meetings to check whether there's actually a deviation, there is a variation, and all of that. We need meetings to ensure that teams are on point with their performance and all of that. So there are so many things that will require meeting, and it's important you know how to use meeting as a critical tool in performance management. It's important that we all as project managers get to understand how meeting can be a critical tool in driving performance. If you're not too good with the physical meetings, then you have to be very good with the virtual meetings. If you're not very good with virtual, you have to be very good with physical, or you can be both. Is advisable. You get to be technologically inclined and also get to be non-technologically ready to face issues through meetings. On the output, we have deliverables. Please note, these deliverables here are in phases. If you remember where we started from, we talked about project phases and we talked about project lifecycle. So project phases are the collection of project activities or project tasks. Now, project lifecycle is the collection of project phases. I will repeat this again. Project phases or sub-projects are collections of sequentially arranged project tasks or project activities, while project lifecycle is the collection of project phases. All right, did you get that? So project phases come as, they have their milestones, and each milestone is considered to have a deliverable. So phase one of a project gives a deliverable, which will become an input for the next task or for the next phase, that at the end of the next phase, we'll have another deliverable that will become an input for the next phase, which will become another input for another phase, such that by the time we'll get to the final phase, we'll have the final product. And I'm going to give you an example. Let's assume, well, let me use a more generic scenario. Let me not use one that could be common to some people and not common to others. Let's assume we want to build a house. I think everyone is conversant with that. In building a house, in the project phases, let's assume you're starting from land procurement to a house delivery. Now, first thing first, getting to buy a land is a phase. There are so many activities involved under that phase, but the deliverable we're expecting from purchase of land or securing of land is to have the land itself. Now, if you have the land, that does not mean that automatically the house is ready. So the land becomes a deliverable for the next phase, which could now be the planning of the building. After we are done with the planning also being a phase, we have series of activities under it. After we are done with all of these series of activities, we are going to have a building plan, approved building plan as a deliverable. Now, by having the approved building plan, it gives us the ultimatum to go to the next phase, which could be going to now design the foundations and all of that. Now, by doing the foundations and all of that, by the time you finish foundation, you have the deliverable foundation as a major milestone of the building. But at the same time, it is not the building. Having done the foundation, it gives us the go-ahead to go and lay blocks and do the electrical fittings, plastering, and all of that. After we are done, it gives us a house, okay? And that gives us another approval to enter maybe the final phase, which is now the finishing, the fittings and finishing. All right. By the time you finish the fittings and finishing, you have the complete house. But that does not mean that it was the fittings and finishing that brought the house. The house had been originated right from the moment we premeditated on land purchase up to the point of buying the land and other phases that followed. So where am I going to? The deliverables can be delivered in phases. Okay, or deliverables are delivered in phases till we get to the final deliverable. All right. Then we'll also have the work performance data that shows us how we are doing compared to what was planned. So what was planned versus what is done. We have a performance data to show us. Are we 25% complete, 100% complete, 5% complete? The performance data tells us how are we performing on resource management, how are we performing on schedule management, how are we performing on risk management. We have all of that in the work performance data. All right. Then you have the issue log. So the issue log gives you all of those prospective changes that you are seeing, all of them documented. Then you have the change requests as part of the outputs. The change requests in this case will contain both the approved and unapproved. Just all of the change requests, have them documented. They have the project management plan updates, which could also, in this case, be updated in any of those components of the project management plan. They have the project documents update. The update could be on activity list, assumptions log, lessons learned register, requirement documentation, risk register, stakeholder register, and then we'll have OPA update, organizational process asset update. Okay. Okay. All right. Then we'll have the fourth one, the fourth process, which is manage project knowledge. Now, I want you to notice something. In 5th edition, we didn't have management of project knowledge. But when we go to reviewing the 6th edition again on this schedule, or sorry, on this integration approach, we'll find out why knowledge management has become a case now in the 6th edition. And to be so frank with you, the reason why knowledge management has become a case is because of the introduction of the agile approaches, which now requires continuous update on knowledge. So the lessons learned, if you see, you see our lessons learned register. So those lessons learned, there is need to now manage them. Those lessons learned will become part of the corporate-based knowledge for the performing organization, or part of the personal-based, professional-based knowledge for the consultant or the project manager performing a task at the point. And it's also important for us to note that with the introduction of agile approaches in project management, knowledge of will I say adventure into project management have become everyday evolutionary. So every day we get to have new knowledge in project management. I would like you to do something. Although what you're receiving is soft copies of your manual, if you have the resource to print, please, I will encourage you to print, bind. When you print and bind, I want you to do something. Occasionally pick your project management body of knowledge and then go through the knowledge areas, go through the processes, go through the trends. As you're going through it, without anybody telling you, without a new release of the PM book, you yourself can actually tell yourself that, this particular one has changed though. This particular one is now moving in this direction. That one needs to be changed, okay? For any time you see a change in project management book of knowledge, it's actually a change of what is happening in the project environment. Okay, some of them are strategically generated. Some of them are already happening. For instance, the agile approaches. When we get to the agile project environment, we'll look at that. So now we'll talk about the Kanban, We talk about the, is it TDD? We talk about, instead of talking about waterfalls now, we now talk about more of the iterative approaches. We now talk about more of the adaptive life cycles. And these things are trends of knowledge management in project management that need to be well managed. Okay, I had a visit to one of the most popular telecommunications company in Africa. So I had a visit. I was in a meeting with the director of projects, and I was there to discuss agile project management with the director of projects. But I found that this thing I'm saying happened this year. Yes, it happened March this year. Now, I was talking to him about agile project management, but he was mistaking what I was saying to waterfall. And I tried to explain the two. He was so much glued to the waterfalls. So I felt like, okay, so when we meet in class, I think I will have much time to explain it to you. Now, we have left the realms of waterfalls. Strategic organizations had left the realms of waterfall. But there are some organizations that are still, for the first time, they are hearing about waterfall. And that seems to be like the best approach they could ever think of. Remember one of the things we said in this class as one of the importance of project management, that project management serves as a core strategic competencies for organizational sustainability and growth. You remember that statement we made? So the management of these knowledges or this project knowledge available to us in the project team and the project management profession will help us in understanding the trends of project management knowledge, help us in the management of those trends, help us in the application of those trends, help us in the review of those trends, so that we can categorically look at where the knowledge management and project management is going to. And then we can advise organizations, either our own organizations or those we are consulting for, or general organizations that we want to encourage. So it's important we understand where this knowledge management is emanating from. It's emanating from the evolution of several knowledge in the project management environment. To be so frank with you, we are looking at project management book of knowledge, which is a product of Project Management Institute USA. That's right. By the time you go to ISO 21500, you will see some amazing knowledge in that area that Project Management Book of Knowledge might not have covered. Then you go to the IPMA, which is International Project Management Association. You go to their own book of knowledge too. You'll find out that there are things that they have there that are not contained in Project Management Book of Knowledge. And that is why, for the fact that you studied through Project Management Book of Knowledge does not mean you limit your knowledge to that of Project Management Book of Knowledge only. We should be versatile enough. We should be open to these trends in knowledge management, especially in this project management. Now, if you look at the project management information system, don't mind me, I'm taking time to talk about this because it is a major boom in the project management industry. Okay, management of the knowledge or the evolution of knowledge in project management is a major discovery that is repositioning the practice of project management. So that's why I'm taking the time to get us to understand that we need to be open to this information. Now, we talk about project management information system. Do you note, or will you will note that if you look at things like project management book of knowledge, it might not categorically tell you which one is the one to apply, whether it is to use Oracle or to use Jira or to use Microsoft projects or to use cloud-based project management systems, right? What they call them, PMI will not be able to accommodate all of this information in the project management book of knowledge. They give us just general standards to project management. but we must be open to the other trends. As you go through Project Management Book of Knowledge, also try to get access to IPMA, their own Project Management Book of Knowledge too. Then try to get the recent update from International Organization for Standardization, the ISO 21500, which is the global standard where all of these other standards are derived from. Okay, so we need to open ourselves to that. They will also pay attention to some of these IT-driven project associations. There are IT-driven project associations. If you look at PMI, they are providing general information to everybody, whether you're IT, engineering, law, it doesn't matter. But there are some associations that are IT project oriented. Now, by the time you go digging into their own knowledge areas as the evolution of knowledge, you will also find that there is so much to be learned in that place. Okay, and then you start looking at knowledge areas as regards to maybe those of them in accounting, project accounting. You will also find that there are evolutions of knowledge that are not accommodated, not in PMI book of knowledge, not in IPMA book of knowledge, but they could be accommodated in other project account knowledge areas that will help. So there have been a whole lot of knowledge coming out, and we must pay attention to learning from all of them. All right. Okay, so forgive me for taking all the time to talk about all of this, but it's good we get to be open-minded as coming to project management. Remember, I said something today. The project manager is a 360-degree manager. Is a 360. Every other manager is 180 degrees, but you see a project manager is a 360 degrees manager. So he should be open to accommodating much information. Okay, he should be not just accommodating information, but understanding those information and being able to apply those informations for organizational differences, organizational growth, and organizational development. So managed project knowledge is the process of using existing knowledge and then creating new knowledge to achieve the project objectives and contribute to organizational learning. The key benefits of this process are that prior organizational knowledge is leveraged to produce or improve the project outcomes, and knowledge created by the project is available to support organizational operations and future projects or phases. Now, what are the inputs? The inputs here will have the project management plan, of which all of the components have their own knowledge evolutions, like I was trying to say. You have the evolutions of knowledge in the risk management, evolution of knowledge in project cost management, evolution of knowledge in just every aspect. You have evolution of knowledge. Then you have the project documents also, where you have the lessons learned register, project team assignment, project resource breakdown structure, source selection criteria, stakeholder register. Then you have deliverables. Now, the deliverables we are going to be using here as an input are the deliverables we got from the previous activity, which was direct and manage project work. You remember, right? So the output, one of the output of directing and managing project execution is that we have deliverables. Now, those deliverables will be used in management of the project knowledge, right? Then you have the EF and the OPA. On the tools and techniques, we have expert judgment, knowledge management, information management, interpersonal and team skills, which will involve active listening, facilitation, leadership, networking, political awareness. Then on the output, we have lessons learned register, project management plan updates, and then we have organizational process assets update. Okay, on the next process, we have monitor and control project work. Now, that question that was asked on whether there is a difference between M&E plan and project management plan. Please, like I said earlier, M&E is a subset of the project management plan. All right, it's not independent of the project management plan. It's a subset of the project management plan. All right, so monitoring and control project work is the process of tracking, reviewing, and reporting the overall progress to meet the performance objectives defined in the project management plan. The key benefits of this process are that it allows stakeholders to understand the current state of the project, to recognize the actions taken to address any performance issues, and to have visibility into the future project status with cost and schedule forecasts. This process is performed throughout the project. So like planning, monitoring and control is performed all through the project. So what are the inputs? The inputs here will form project management plan, the project document, work performance information, the agreement, enterprise environmental factors, and organizational process assets. Okay. So if you now check what we have here on monitoring and control, you see that we took an input from when we are developing charter. The input from charter development is here. We have agreement. Then we have an input from planning, which is the project management plan. We have an input from directing and managing project work, which is work performance information. Okay. So we have an input from managing project knowledge, which is contained in project document. So if you see, monitoring and control project work has moved from initiation down to where it is right now. And it's going to pass through here till we get to the closure, and then finally hand over the project to the owner. So the tools and techniques involved here will involve expert judgment, data analysis. Under the data analysis, we have alternative analysis, cost-benefit analysis, end value analysis, root cause analysis, trend analysis, variance analysis. They will have decision-making and meetings. I'm going to explain these data analysis procedures just a little. Alternatives analysis. I think the word there is alternatives. Okay. In project, we want to find the best options to carry out the project. So we must always have plan A, plan B, plan C, and then try to use the necessary tools, meetings, brainstorming, and then find out which one that will work best. Someone asked a question in the first class, and the question was that, can we reduce cost and still have quality? All right. Now, when you now begin to do your alternative identification, although you already have an estimated cost for that quality, but when you begin to do alternative identification, you will now begin to find other options that, though the resource you're using is not of less quality, but there could be an option available to you to now get the resource at a cheaper rate with the same quality. Let me give you an instance. Recently, I needed about we needed some flash drives in preparation for the conference, because it's always important that after all of this learning at the conference, you get to have all your work in a flash drive. So all your materials, all the video records, all the lectures, all the conference proceedings and all of that, all of the conference videos, you have them in a flash, and then it's given to you. So I'm the one that was assigned the responsibility to do that. So I went to Jumia to search. I found some flash drive, at least up to 64 gig, that can serve the purpose of what we are looking for. But the list I saw was, I think was about 4,000 plus, the list I saw. So I had to start making contacts from within and outside of Nigeria. From within Nigeria, I got products, according to them, as good quality, at 2,500 plus over the number we wanted to buy. Okay, so after the whole thing, I now said, okay, let me make some contacts from China and see if I can get them at cheaper rate. Of course, your guess is as good as mine. I had better descriptions, better qualities at a lesser cost. Better descriptions, better designs, better qualities at a lesser cost. So has that reduced the quality of the work to be done? No. But through alternative analysis, we've been able to find out what could be the best option for us. All right. So alternative analysis does not in any way reduce the quality of your work. It's just to find the best options that will give you the right results. Then you have the cost benefit analysis. The two keywords there are the cost and the benefit. The cost and the benefit. For every cost you're accruing, what's the benefit? What's the return on that cost? Okay. So it's a simple everyday analysis that we do. I'm sure some of us could have had this same kind of experience with me. And I'm going to ask, if you've ever had that experience, let me know. Have you ever wanted to buy something before? Maybe you were hungry, you wanted to buy food. One mind is telling you, go and eat at Tantalizers. Another mind, Tantalizers is at 4,005. The kind of thing you wish to eat at Tantalizers is 4,005. Then there is another smaller restaurant that is not up to Tantalizers. Maybe their name is not well known everywhere. That same food that you will eat in Tantalizer, you will eat it in this place, maybe at 1,005 or 2,000. Then all of a sudden, you start asking yourself the question, what benefit, what special benefit will I have if I go to spend 4,005 in Tantalizers over 1,005 in this other good restaurant also, but it's not Tantalizer? You begin to weigh the benefit of the investment you want to make on the food you want to eat. If you've ever had such an experience before, just type 11 in the chat room. You just decided to do cost benefit analysis before you invest. All right, so these are some of the things that we carry out daily. And to some of us, is everyday event. To some of us, cost benefit analysis is everyday event. You ask yourself, why should I actually, okay, let's make it simple. In this class now, how many of us in this class has actually asked themselves, why must I buy this material? Why must I pay for this course? You've asked yourself that question, and every day you try to convince yourself to pay for material. You try to convince yourself. You research, you ask questions, you do so many things. So if you ever had such experience in this class, just type 00. Let me see those of us that are practicing. So you see, so we do cost benefit analysis in all of these things we do. So if you take cost benefit back to where we talked about general management skills, and we talked about negotiation. So you actually find out that you're actually negotiating with your own self. You're negotiating the benefit of what you're doing to your career. You're negotiating the benefit of what you're doing to your finances. You're negotiating the benefit of what you're doing to your business. You're negotiating the benefit of the... So for every cost that leaves our pocket, we want to be sure of the benefit that comes alongside with it. We want to be very sure. And that is wisdom. That is project management. So anytime you find yourself doing that, just know that you are now gradually becoming a project manager. And there is nothing wrong with it. Okay, there is nothing wrong with it. And there could be some other people who register for this program, but by the time they came and said, okay, the training is free and you have to pay for materials and all of that, they said, okay, instead of me to come here, I think it's better I go to Coursera. It's free there. I will learn completely free. Okay, anyway, I'll still pay for my certificate if there is need. So they choose another alternative. Is there something wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just to find out the best place you can get the best quality at all times. All right. So cost benefit analysis is something we practice every day, and using it in project inclusion shouldn't be any different. Okay. Then you have the end value analysis. When we get to cost management, we'll still look at end value management. And I think at that place, I will talk more about end value management. They have trend analysis. Okay, so I just spoke about trend of knowledge development. So trend analysis is also part of it. Okay, so what is the trend of knowledge management? What's the trend of cost management? What's the trend of project management? What's the trend of, so we get to understand all of those trends. What's the trend of market competition? You know. What's the trend of economic activities? You know. What's the trend of workplace today? I'm sure everybody here should know. What's the trend of remuneration today? Everyone know. New trends in HR, you know. If you're a career person by now, you know, because you would have seen the effects on your wallet. All right. Then we have the variance analysis too. I always say it in a simple way. The key word there is variation. Okay. And those days we were in school doing some engineering courses and statistical courses. So you hear so many things: one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, three-way ANOVA. In fact, very soon they will get 10 and the 20-way ANOVA as the knowledge keeper. Imagine. Now, if you're in this class and you ever solved one-way ANOVA, you know how many pages of long notes you used to do that. At some point, you even forget where you are, and then you'll be flipping back to now call a statement you made somewhere to correspond with what you want to do. Then, if you ever solve two-way ANOVA, I'm not sure I did more than one-way ANOVA. I'm telling you the honest truth, because I was not seeing the practical implication of that to my life, as it were. So I made up my mind that if there was any question coming on two-way ANOVA, I'm not going to answer it. And I tell you the truth, I did not answer it. So during the exam, when my friends were telling me, I answered all the questions, I answered two-way ANOVA, I say, congratulations. Although when the result came, all of us, they passed. But where am I going to? Some of these words could make it look like this is something big. It must be done through a computer, get an Excel sheet, get a Oracle DB software, and then you begin to impute, then you begin to see the deviations, and then you begin to see the schedule variance and cost variance and all of that. Well, if you have good knowledge of that, it's good, but it's good you understand what variation is in simple terms. Variation is the difference between what is planned and what is on ground, is it not? That is checking what was planned compared to what we have on ground. That's variation. So you can do variation by observation. Even in the one-way ANOVA and two-way ANOVA, they taught us, they still taught us observations in them. Just that the observations they were teaching us, they were now making everything mathematical, as though everybody must be a mathematician. Okay, so this whole thing we are looking at, by being observant, by checking how things are going, you can find out whether your project is already having a variation or not. If you now want to know the degree of variation, then you can now go and start using the software for them and start imputing your figures, and then you can find out. But before the variation comes out, you already know that there is a deviation or there's a variation here. Okay. There was a project, a project we did for Airtel some times ago, and when I was still working in the telecom space. You remember I told you I have my Oga who was the lead project manager, was the associate. So I had this project we did in Nasra State. We were installing the Airtel mask. Sorry, we are running a maintenance on the Airtel mask that we installed there some times ago. And part of the things that was involved in that maintenance was that we are going to remove the power plant that was already there. We remove it and then replace it with another one, and some other changes we are going to do. One of the changes too is that we are going to put palisade fencing and then put the block walls, because finally the Airtel mask was now inside a cathedral. So we needed to create the block wall to ensure that the cathedral get to have their space. Now something happened. Just follow me. Just follow me. Something happened. That particular day, we left the hotel without the project plan. So we left the hotel without the project plan. And on getting to the site, we just found out, oh, the project plan is not here. And we said, okay, since we already know what to do, according to the project manager, he knows what to do. So let's just do what we need to do. When we get back tomorrow, as we are coming, we'll come with the project plan. I knew that was a disastrous decision to make. But since he was the project manager in charge and I'm learning under him, what do I have to say? So we said, okay, medicine man. And medicine man now came and confused everybody. He said, I saw the plan yesterday. This is where the palisade is supposed to be. This is where defense is supposed to be. So we now told medicine people now, oh yeah, continue work. Do you know we came the next day? By the time we saw the project plan and looked at what we have on ground, nobody thought that we didn't use mathematics to know that we actually there was a high degree variation from where it's supposed to be to where it is. And you know what? For the fencing, it was still, they've not poured all those sand. So they had to push the fence. They pushed the fence so that it will align. Okay. That was one of the poorest work I've ever done. And I must tell you the truth. Why I said so is that about 2 years later on, I found myself in that particular state again. And in front of this thing, there was one Access Bank. So from the Access Bank, I was now looking at the work we did. And I found out that the fence had fallen. The gutters that we did had already scattered. Okay. And I said to myself, if we had followed the project plan, we wouldn't be having all of this. Okay. We wouldn't be having all of this. So some of those variations don't need mathematical, all of those, too much mathematical breaking of head and all of that. By looking at what your plan is saying and looking at what you have, you should be able to know whether there is variation or not. Then we have decision making and meetings. On the output, we have work performance reports, change requests, project management plan updates. We have project documents updates, and all of these are involved inside the project document update. Then we have the integrated change control. All of the changes that we've been requesting, we have to bring them to one place and then take a decision on them. The integrated change control, perform integrated change control is the process of reviewing all change requests, approving changes and managing changes to deliverables, project documents, and the project management plan, and communicating the decisions. This process reviews all requests for changes to project documents, deliverables, or the project management plan, and it determines the resolution of the change request. The key benefit of this process is that it allows for documented changes within the project to be considered in an integrated manner while addressing overall project risk, which often arises from changes made without consideration of the overall project objectives or plan. This process is performed throughout the project. So what do we have as the inputs? In the inputs, we have the project management plan. Now, you remember in the other places, we say any component could serve. But in this particular case, we have specific areas of the project management plan that will provide sources as the input. So we have the change management plan, configuration management plan, scope baseline, schedule baseline, and cost baseline as the major places that changes will be emanating from. Then we have the project documents where we have basis of estimate, requirements, traceability, matrix, risk report. Then we have the work performance report, change request, EF, and OPA. On the tools and technique, we have expert judgment, change control tools, data analysis, decision making, which could be done through voting, autocratic decision making, multi-criteria decision making. And we also have meetings as part of the tools and techniques. In 5th edition and 4th edition, when it comes to decision making, we talked about the nominal decision making, and then we talked about the multi-criteria decision making. So in this 6th edition, instead of talking about nominal decision making, we now talk about the voting system, which is democratic, and the nominal is democratic. And then we have the autocratic, or what we call the Delphi method, Delphi, 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 or master decision making approach. Okay, then we have the multi-criteria, which involve the Delphi or the autocratic versus the voting system or nominal system, all joined together. All right. Then on the output, we have approved change requests, project management plan updates, and then we have the change documents update, which is going to be reflected on the change log. And finally, we have the closed project or phase. It's a process of finalizing all activities for the project, phase, or contract. The key benefit of this process are the project or phase information is archived, the planned work is completed, and the organizational team resources are released to pursue new endeavors. This process is performed once or at predetermined points in the project, just like the develop project charter. Now, what are the inputs? We have project charter, we have project management plan, we have the project document, which will involve assumptions log. You see, that assumptions log we formed in the charter. We are now bringing it back in the close of the project. Let's find out whether there were some assumptions we made that finally materialized to realities. All right. There were basis of estimates, whether the basis were parametric basis or analogous basis. We'll find out. And if you're using parametric basis would be a function of what you got from your feasibility study. You remember feasibility study? If you're running parametric basis, so the information on feasibility study is a parametric basis because those informations were actually generated. If we are running analogous basis, it's always based on hearsay. Okay, so parametric basis give you more valuable or more quality information than the analogous basis, all right? Then you have the change log, issue log, lessons learned, milestone list, project communications, quality control measurements, quality reports, requirement documentation, risk register, risk report. Then we also have accepted deliverables, business documents. You remember the business document we used in the formation of business or project charter in the beginning. So we're having it here again. Now, why do we need, I will ask this question and I will need your answer. Why do we need business documents? All of these things stated here. Why do we need them in the close phase? I will need your answer in the chat room. Why do we need the business document in the project closure phase? Why do we need it? Okay, why do we still need it as an input? It formed an input in developing a project charter. Now we've gone through charter development, project plan development, directing and managing project work, monitoring and controlling project work. We've done management of the knowledge, and now we have come to the close of the project and we still need business case again. Why do we need it? I need your answer in the chat room. Now, in the tools and technique, we have expert judgments. Then we have data analysis, which will involve document analysis, regression analysis, trend analysis, and variance analysis. And then we'll have meetings. More of these tools, we will look at them more as we progress, where they are really much more practical. Okay, then on the output, we have project documents updates, where we'll have the lessons learned register. We'll have final product, service or result transition. Now, you look, if you remember, when we did direct and manage project execution, we had an output that we call deliverable. It didn't say that that deliverable was the final, but in the closed project or phase, it now says that instead of saying deliverable, the deliverable will now have here is now the final product, the final service, or the final result transition. And we have the final report. Then we have organizational process assets update. Okay, and that's where we are going to be drawing the curtain. I actually found out that this particular slide has the updated version of what do you call it? The updated version of project what do they call it again? Project integration management. But I think I've covered most of the things I would have loved to share here. I've covered them in the class. So more of the things we will see in 6th edition that we are not considered in 5th edition. We consider things like the key concepts, and in the key concepts, we look at trends and emerging practices, where we'll now talk about the automated tools, which in the 5th edition wasn't considered. Then we'll now look at the use of visual management tools, project management, knowledge, project knowledge management. Okay, we talked about it. Then expanding the project manager's responsibility, and then hybrid methodologies, which hybrid methodologies now here involve the waterfall approaches and the agile approaches, knowing when to adopt waterfall approach and knowing when to adopt the agile approaches. Can somebody tell us the name of the life cycle that we said was a waterfall approach or waterfall life cycle? Can someone tell us another name that we can call the waterfall approach? Waterfall. Okay, if you know the name we can call waterfall, please let me know. Now, in the tailoring considerations, you see that we have consideration on the project life cycle. And apart from the project life cycle, we now have the development life cycle also, which is a consideration on its own also. Then we have consideration in the management approaches, tailoring management approaches, tailoring management of knowledge, tailoring changes as they occur, governance, lessons learned, and benefits. Then there is a special consideration on the adoption of the agile or adaptive environment in the present day project management practice. So these are just the little of the differences that come to, or that came to project integration management in the 6th edition. So basically we have the trends, understanding the trends, and then understanding or giving consideration to agile and or adaptive environment. Then we also look at tailoring considerations. In 5th edition, we were not considering of tailoring, but now in 6th edition, tailoring simply means that every project should be like the keyword tailor-made. It should have its own specific procedures and approaches to give the results that are needed in them. All right, so at this juncture, men and brethren, I think we've been able to do justice to all right, thank you so much. So the waterfall is also called the predictive life cycle. I just wanted to be sure I'm not talking to myself, so let me not be talking waterfall. And before I know it now, rain will start falling. Okay, so waterfall is also called the predictive life cycle. Then what other names do we call the agile environment? Okay, so I asked the question, why do we need business document in the closing phase? And I see from Malik, he said to ensure that no area of the project is left untouched. All right, thank you. Let me see if there are other answers. The other name for waterfall, please, Muhammad Abubakar Ladan. Another name for waterfall is not agile. Another name for waterfall is predictive life cycle. Another name for agile is adaptive life cycle. All right. Why do we need the business case? To find out if the required project is achieved. Okay, to find out if the required project deliverable is achieved by the end of the project. Okay. Top to bottom. We'll come to top to bottom later. Okay, to compare if the project deliverables are in line with the project baseline as specified in the business document, which are the business case and benefits plan. All right, so thank you very much. I guess we all followed all through this class. Now, I would like to know if there is question. Please, Mr. Thompson, if you are around, kindly take over. And let's please share the attendance so that those of us that have not signed attendance can sign attendance. Please, I'm seeing the class dropping. Ensure to sign your attendance before you go. If there's any question, please, can we have those questions now? Mr. Thompson, are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you.
All right, sir.
All right, please, if you have questions, do raise your hands and you shall be unmuted so that you can ask your questions, please. If you have questions, please raise your hands and you will be unmuted so you can ask your questions. Please ensure you fill the attendance sheet. All right, we have 2 hands raised up now. Jonathan, you can unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Jonathan.
Jonathan Anderson.
Hello.
Yes, good evening, sir. You have been one of the people asking the most questions in project management class. Are you a project manager?
Not really, but I have my MSc in project management from KNUST.
Oh, that's great. Okay, okay.
So you did mention about cost benefit analysis,
Okay,
and we know we have benefit cost analysis too.
okay.
So these two phrases or two sentences normally confuse as to
Okay.
what is cost benefit analysis and what is benefit cost analysis. Can you please help me here?
Okay, thank you so much. Have you ever heard of SWOT analysis before?
Yes, I've heard about SWOT
Mr.
analysis.
Jonathan, are you with me? Have you ever heard of? Okay.
Yes, so
Okay.
where
Have
we
you
have
also heard of?
our strength, our weakness, our opportunities, and then the last one is the